Welcome back into the Be Unexpected with Wyatt and Jake. And today we have with us former Fremont High teacher and coach, Dave Sellon. How we doing, Coach?
Pretty good.
Thanks for
Glad
joining
to be
us.
here.
Yeah, so Coach Sellon coached my when I was a freshman football team, and then when I did track for 1 year as a freshman, he was the high jump coach. Yeah, and then throughout high school teaching, I think I had you for biology, maybe
Yep.
another couple other classes. But yeah, we've known Coach Sellon for a while, and thanks for having us on, and well, thanks for coming on, and yeah, just kind of share a little bit about where you're from and what your upbringing was like.
Okay. Well, I didn't make it far. I grew up in Blair, Nebraska, and both of my parents were teachers. My dad was a coach. So I just kind of grew up around, education and coaching. And that's just kind of what I always knew I wanted to do. So I came to Midland College here in Fremont and never left. The first job interview I had was at Fremont High, and I got the job, and so I've been in Fremont ever since.
What was the teaching job at Fremont that you got?
It was 1991, 92, and I got hired to teach biology and chemistry and coach JV football. Uh, they talked me into being an assistant swimming coach. Quite a story. I never
Wow.
passed a swimming lesson in my
Yeah.
life, but I was an assistant swimming coach, and then I coached junior high track. So three
Wow.
sports and pretty good load.
So like growing up, what sports were you really into, and what was your favorite sport growing up that you put a lot of time in practicing?
Um, it, I grew up in the '70s, so um, think kind of like the movie Sandlot.
Mhm.
Um, the whole the whole neighborhood just got together and played something every day. Um, in the summertime, a lot of times it was Sandlot baseball on the elementary school field across from my house, and we just invented something to do that had that was some kind of a sport every day. And a couple of my other buddies that lived in the same end of town had dads that were coaches, and we spent a lot of time hanging out at practices at the high school. And um, one of the kids, his dad was the football coach, and he managed to acquire some football equipment that was in his basement that he could pretty much outfit the whole neighborhood. And we had football equipment, and he marked out. He even borrowed uh, some field stripe paint and had his yard painted out. So
Nice.
Oh,
um, it was just one sport after the next, and we played everything. Nothing real organized until junior high. But then I did baseball, or I did baseball in the summer. I did football, played a little basketball. I liked basketball, but I wasn't very good at it. Couldn't score, couldn't shoot,
yeah.
so they cut me. Um, and then I did track in the spring, and
so,
football and track were my two best sports, but kind of enjoyed football the most actually.
so then
Was
you,
your
yeah, you go on to end up going to Midland. So talk about that. Did you do football and track at Midland?
Well, yeah, I did football my first year at Midland, and and was planning to do track. Um, that was '87, and we had a good football team in Midland. We made the national playoffs, got to fly in an airplane and go to Seattle. We played Pacific Lutheran in the first round that year, and we got beat. They ended up being national champions, but that was a great experience, and with some great coaches. But that was the game where I tore up my knee, so I was out the rest of that year. And then when my knee got better, I actually just stuck with track. I tried to go back for football the first year after, and it just my knee couldn't take it. So I just
Mhm.
did track the rest of my career.
How did your track career go in college, and what events did you do?
I was a pole vaulter, and it was a great experience. Um, it was at a time where they were kind of in between pole vault coaches. So a buddy of mine that was also a pole vaulter, we kind of had to coach ourselves for the most part. And so it had its ups and downs, but it was a good experience. And I qualified for the national track meet my senior year. Um, Made 15.5. So
Chevy.
it was all right. It was a
So
great
what?
experience.
Well, talk about going back to like choosing to go to Midland? What was the recruiting process back like in the 80s? Did they come to the school and like, hey, you want to come? You're like, sure, or what was that process like?
And in those days, we didn't have social media. You didn't post your own stuff, and you didn't have to market yourself like you
Mhm.
do now. Um, the coaches had to, comb the local area for athletes that they thought they might want, and they would come and watch you at a track meet or a football game, and call you on the phone and talk to you about coming to the school and so forth. Um, and being from Blair, there was quite a contingency of Blair kids that were at Midland. In fact, one of my buddies growing up was Scott Johnson and Steve Johnson, two brothers. Their dad was coaching at Midland at the time. So Midland had kind of a Blair connection, and there were a lot of Blair kids on the Midland team. So, and the track coaches, Jim McMahon was the track coach. That's, Coach Sean McMahon. That's his dad. He spent quite a bit of time talking to me about coming to be on the track team. So it was an easy move to go to Midland for me. Little known fact, Jake, I went to Morningside my first year.
I think I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was when Jim Levitt was the track coach at Morningside.
Okay. Yeah.
And Morningside, I love this school, love the people. Um, they just didn't have enough pole vault equipment and poles and so forth, and no place to practice indoors. So I decided if I was going to continue my pole vaulting, I just needed to go someplace, with a little better situation. So that's how I ended up, kind of going back to Midland.
What? Not Dana? Was Dana still? Did you ever think about
Dana was
going
still
there?
going, yeah. Um, and I kind of did think about going to Dana when knew I was going to transfer.
Yeah.
But Dana didn't have much of a track program at that time. They only had the outdoor track, and it was still cinders.
Oh.
They didn't have an
Oh
indoor
man.
facility. It was kind of more of like a small track club than it was a full team, and so they weren't going to have any better pole vault situation for me than I had at Morningside. So um, I almost went to Dana just to do football and baseball. Honestly, I played summer baseball with on a team that was coached by the Dana coach, and he wanted me to be his center fielder, but I wasn't ready to give up on pole vaulting, so
Yeah.
I went to Midland.
So kind of talk about like after college and you become a science teacher, like growing up, did you always enjoy science classes and kind of talk about your passion for like science and what you like about that?
Yeah, that's when I was a kid and going through school, I always seemed to do well in science, and I was always drawn to science, especially on the nature side of things, biology and wildlife and so forth. I'm an outdoors person and have an appreciation for nature, so I think that's what drew me into the science um, part of it. I don't know. I'm also into history. Probably could have been a history teacher, but I did well in science, and there was, high need for science teachers. I knew that would be a safe bet, and I ended up spending most of my career teaching biology and environmental science, which was kind of what I was really into.
Did you like one more than the other, like environmental or biology?
Environmental is my real interest area, and when we first went to the block schedule system way back in the 90s, um, we needed extra classes to fill out the schedule, and And when the topic came up about, what could we add in the biology side of things, I volunteered to build an environmental class. And so it was kind of always my baby that I built and I enjoyed.
Yeah, I did like senior year for environmental science, I remember. That was fun.
Right.
It was only a quarter,
We
and
had
I
a
was
good
like,
time.
yeah, I was like, why can't this be a semester? I have to go to like typing next, and
Yeah.
this is way more fun.
Yeah. I think it was environmental. I think like I had Jay Thayer and maybe a couple other guys in my class, and it was fun. But then
I
yeah, it's like,
remember that now.
yeah, yeah. It was my. I don't think I was in your class, right? It's because it's my junior year.
Yeah, I had my like senior year,
Uh,
and then like some of my best friends had it the next quarter, and I was just like, dang it, I
yeah.
wish I was in that one now too. So then I had to go to typing or something.
So then you're talk about so you were got all you got the teaching job at Fremont and then you're coaching what swimming and track and then you kind of like eventually become the head track coach and you with football I mean you were I think my freshman coach but then eventually you were I think working with the varsity kids so just kind of talk about working your way through that learning all that and then leading up to being the head track coach.
Yeah, when I came here, fresh out of college, Fremont had one of the best, if not the best, track programs and track traditions in Nebraska at the time. John Applegate was the head coach, and Pat Murphy was his assistant in charge of jumps. And then you had Mike Reese and Dave Schrader in the throws. It was a fantastic staff. Um, and I made sure when I was a junior high coach, we only had the one track, so we practiced on the same track as the high school people. So I really tried to learn as much as I could from those older guys about how to do things and the technique side of things also. And I tried to take a little bit of the best from all of those guys, and they were fantastic mentors and great people. So um, when it came time that they were going to retire in '97, they retired. Murph and App retired in the same year, and then Sean McMahon and I took their places with me as the head coach. So I've had some great mentors that I've really tried to learn a lot from and take the best from. Coach Watchhorn at Midland in the football program was a fantastic human being, and I learned a lot from him also.
Yeah, I remember a lot of great athletes coming through too. I'm just thinking about when I was in doing like track club in elementary school. I remember so Ben Zook with high jump, and then I remember always like watching Matt Donahue on the football field, and then when he goes to state, I think was it he beat Niles Paul in the 100 or he got second?
Yeah,
Yeah, and so I just remember.
he was second in the 100, but
Okay,
he was the kid that beat him was B.J. Lawrence from Omaha Northwest, and B.J. Lawrence beat him in the 100 and 200. B.J. ended up running in the London Olympics.
wow,
His parents were from St. Kitts and Nevis, so he was a dual citizen, and so he ran for St. Kitts and Nevis in the London Olympics.
wow,
Wow.
Yeah.
jeez,
So
Matt
like,
Donahue was quite a
yeah,
story and quite an athlete. He
yeah,
scored 34 points at the state track meet.
yeah.
hey,
Second in the 100, second in the 200, second in the high jump. He jumped
That's right.
6'10"
I
his senior
forgot.
year.
Jeez.
Yeah. Had the state record holder in the high jump and to go against though.
Was that Rob, the dude from
Randall Carter.
La Vista? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He
Wow.
jumped 7'4".
wow.
Is that still the state record?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. So like as a track coach, like you get points and stuff, like you said, the track, state track meet. What's the strategy of like so you can get those points and where to put which runners where and who runs when?
That that is the key. um, it's a 2-day track meet, and it does take some doing to figure out where your best chances to score the most points are. And honestly, that's Coach McMahon's department his forte. He's a real strategist. And he would, leading up to the district track meet, when you're going to try to qualify, we would have a round table meeting most of the time at my kitchen table and kick around all the scenarios and talk about the pros and cons of certain event lists for certain kids. And you want to try to put them in enough that they can score points, but not too much so that they get too worn out, and spread the events out over the 2 days the best that you can. And we've been pretty good about getting people in the right place and having kids perform really well.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, with all the like district champions, state champions, conference champions. Yeah, that's always something I know that I remember you've mentioned before, that McMahon is just so good at strategizing where to place who and what. So
yeah.
So, like looking back, like on your coaching and teaching career, what has brought you like the most joy, either like in the classroom helping a student or on the track or football field, helping players succeed at their sport?
I chose to do this because I'm a people person, and I love just building connections with people, and having a good time, getting to know people, and help young people kind of find their way and figure out who they are, um, and then find some success and wherever their talents lie. That's just a fun process, and that's what I wanted to do with my life. So whether it was in the classroom or out at the track or on the field, that's kind of what it was about for me. It was kind of my way to serve, um, with the skill set I was blessed with. And I always enjoyed that, and I still do. We had great times in science classes, and I do remember having both of you, and we had a good time. And I figured, I hope we learned some science,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And then when it comes to the coaching side, um, there's a certain adrenaline rush, and it's very, very, very stressful when you have the responsibility of split second decision making that could, that will affect outcomes. Um, that's exciting and stressful at the same time. But it's if you can help a kid accomplish a goal, that's pretty rewarding.
Yeah. So talk about, you're still coaching, you've retired, still subbing. So what else are you up to these days?
Well, people have been asking me, "What do you do?" And my favorite answer is whatever I want.
Whatever you want.
There you go.
There's been a whole lot of have tos my whole life, and now
Yeah.
I'm doing more want tos. So it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have I like the outdoors, and you guys know that. And our family has a little piece of nature land, and a little cabin that we've built, and I'm the closest one that has the most time, so I'm kind of the caretaker there, and I really enjoy just getting away and being outside and taking care of things at our happy hunting grounds.
Yeah.
You have some kids that play college sports now, right?
Yeah. In fact, I watched your episode with Drew.
Yeah.
Kind of get prepped up for this. I will say I'm a little disappointed that Drew was first up. I mean,
Oh.
Oh, well, no. College athlete, man. Like
he's he's pretty smooth. He's pretty good on camera.
yeah.
Yeah, we had a great time last fall. It was the first fall of not having to watch football film all weekend and be at meetings prepping for the next week, for me. And so we put our energy into being Morningside football fans and going to the tailgates and traveling to games and so forth. And it was sure a lot of fun. We're really enjoying that.
Sweet. How did they finish last year?
They were 9-3, and they got beat by Dort at home, close, and got beat by Northwestern at Northwestern in the Snow Bowl. That was quite a game. When they started the game, there was a little bit of snow starting to cover the turf. And by halftime, there was probably 3 or 4 inches of snow on the turf. It was wild. Um, and then they made the playoffs, and we got to go to Indiana Wesleyan in Marion, Indiana, and they lost a close one there too by I think 3. So things are looking up for this year if they can sort out their offense and a little bit. They were short on quarterbacks last year because of the injury to the oh shoot, now I can't say his name, Jorgensen, or I think it was Jorgensen. That was the Bellevue West kid that was going to be the starter.
Oh.
Got hurt at the end of the season the year before, so hopefully they'll have their offense firing a little more this year.
Coach Ryan always has. I mean, over the years, it's just been it's a dynasty now.
Yeah, I'm hoping they can keep that going.
Yeah.
And back on top while Drew's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I bet they will.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you joining us, Coach Sellon, and just thankful for the impact you've made on us and so many other kids from Fremont. Thank you.
Thanks.
I really appreciate that, guys. And thanks for having me.
Yeah.